Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Sematary Club. So, Word Processor of the Gods is a very interesting short story because it plays with ethics, it plays with morality, it plays with changing your entire life and doing it kind of spur of the moment. So we begin our story and we find our main character. His name is Richard. He is married to a woman named Lina who is not very supportive. She is sullen. They don't have a very loving relationship. And then his son, Seth, is a very despondent teenager who has no respect for his father. The mother kind of spoils him and lets him get away with things, won't let Richard intervene. He has these two family members that just don't seem to suit him. Like he doesn't seem to have deserved these people. And on the other hand, his brother, who's a shit, has a great wife and a great child. And the wife was someone that Richard used to date, but his big brother Roger decided he wanted her. But basically, he kind of bowed out and let Roger date Belinda, and they ended up getting married and having their kid, and Richard just feels like it should have been him. Like, he should have had that wife and child, as opposed to what he ended up with. So, his brother was drunk and got into a car accident. He drove over a cliff or some sort of embankment, plummeted to, the ground 90 feet, and his wife Belinda and his son John died. Now, John had been working on a present for Richard, like a birthday present, and it's some sort of a cobbled together word processor, which would be like an early version of a computer. And because he died and didn't finish it, the neighbor brought the word processor over to Richard's house and said, here it is. He turns it on, it says, "Happy birthday, Uncle Richard." And yet again, Richard is struck by the fact that John was young, he didn't deserve the father that he had. Roger was abusive and mean, and, it just wasn't a great situation, and John was such a sad child because of it. He writes, there's a picture on my wall, something like that. Like, there's a picture of my wife on my wall, and there's a photo of his wife on this wall, and then he hits the delete button, just as you would do if you're messing around with a sentence and then you get rid of the sentence, and the picture disappears. Like, it just goes away. So then he types it again, and the picture comes back. So this word processor is somehow connected to the universe. He types that there's a bag of money on the floor, and all of a sudden there's a bag of money. So he realizes he has some kind of really weird thing going on right now. He turns off the word processor because it's starting to overheat and starting to make weird noises, and he doesn't want to ruin it. So gets that turned off. He calls the guy who brought the word processor over to his house, and he's like, "What do you know about this? This thing is acting very oddly, and what do you think about John having built this?" And the guy says, quote, "A boy is only a boy, bright or otherwise, and love can be misdirected." Page 317. So John had been working on this project because Richard had confided in him that Lina is not supportive of his writing, and he thought that if he had some sort of word processor, he could write faster and he could do more and support his ungrateful family better. And so John's like, I could try building you one because they're super expensive. So that's how he started Frankensteining together this word processor for his uncle. And then we get this moment where he turns the word processor back on, and Seth, his son, practice with his friends, and Richard can overhear him bad-mouthing him to his friends. And all of a sudden he's just like, you know what? I'm sick of it. And he types that he has a son, and he lingers over the delete button, And he like rationalizes in his mind that he's not going to murder his son, he's just going to delete him. And so he does it. His son just stops talking, and the boys who are over visiting for band practice, they're not there, because in this timeline now, they wouldn't have been there because Seth is not a thing. Richard walks around the house, there's no sign of his son, like nothing. And then his wife comes home and she's different because this is now a timeline where they never had a child. And it's so fascinating that he just deleted his kid and now he's got this whole different trajectory. And his wife says to him, you know, are you going back to work on that word processor? Quote, she knew about the word processor, of course she did. Seth's deletion had not affected Roger and the track that Roger's family had been on. Page 322. I love how he calls it his deletion. It sounds so sterile. He's like, yeah, I'll be right back. So he has this, we know what he's thinking. He goes to his office and types out that he has this wife, and then he deletes her. So basically, Richard deletes Lina, and then the word processor is really having a hard time, and it's not going to last much longer. He can tell it's overheated, it's going to explode. And he types in that he lives alone except for his wife Belinda and his son John, meaning his sister-in-law and his nephew, but they are his family. And he types it in. There's a big long pause where it doesn't look like it took. So it's like when you've saved a document, but it doesn't appear that anything really saved right before a computer crash or something like that. And the word processor just, it's done. So then Richard isn't sure what happened, but John comes through the office door and he's like, hey, what's going on here? You know, you made quite the ruckus, and oh, it looks like this word processor is pretty fried. And he seems, from the earlier description of John, to be, you know, the version of this kid that Richard would want. And he mentions that mom, so Belinda, has some hot cocoa for him waiting, and it just seems like they're going to have this perfect happy ending, which is nice. We don't know for sure, maybe there's some weird thing, like I wonder how the word processor knew which John and which Belinda. Somehow it did. Maybe because John built the thing. I don't know. I mean, it's not like this thing is actually real anyway. But what do you think about the moral implications of this? You know, deleting entire beings, changing people's existences, and changing timelines. And did that word processor change Richard's timeline? Maybe Richard didn't delete the timeline that he was living. Maybe he pulled himself out of that timeline and created a copy. Like when you edit a photo and you edit a copy of the photo, maybe he's editing a copy of his life, so maybe now there are 3 Richards or something like that. That's a concept that I hadn't really considered until just now. I don't know. What do you think? I think this is a great little short story, and it makes you think, it makes you wonder. It seems to have all worked out because 2 good innocent people died, and then Richard kind of brought them back. Have a spooky day.